This computer. Okay. All right. There you go, Gretchen. It's all you.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Can you see the disc class here on the screen? Okay. I just want to make sure everybody can see it. Okay. Awesome. So I know it's going to be hard because um, everybody is on Zoom, but I'm going to go at this assuming that each one of you have done a disc analysis and know your profile. And what we can do is once we get done, I love to have conversations with people about I'm not really sure what mine is and where can I go to take it, because I can literally ask you a couple of questions and I can definitely tell you what your leading profile is. Sometimes people fool me because there is our natural style and then there's also our adapted style. And a lot of people in real estate have to adapt their natural behavioral style into another one in order to be successful in real estate. I am one that has to very much adapt myself to my natural behavioral style, which you'll understand a little bit more because I always like to go through this and I love to have everybody tell me what you think I am. So let's begin. So this is about understanding your customers and your coworkers. So understanding other agents that you're negotiating with, and most of all, your buyers and your sellers. When you understand their behavioral style, you will know how to communicate with them, how to sell to them, how to service them the best way possible. And I've got a couple stories that I'll tell you in between all this as well. So this is a little bit about me. I've been in this industry now for over 32 years, from property management to resort management to selling real estate. I was a regional VP for a Fortune 500 company on the title side, and I've been a coach and trainer now for several years. I've managed 3 brokerages. And I'm super excited, and this isn't on here, but I have now made it into the Orlando top 500. And I did find out that the lowest in the 500 is 8 million, and I was at 11 million. So my first year back selling full time was last year, and I absolutely loved it. And I'm so glad I went back to selling full time, but I still have mentees, so I still get to feel that part of my passion as well. And that's helping them grow their business and educate them on what we all do every day. Okay, so there are 4 behavioral styles. Not one of these is better than the other. We are all just different people and we lead with different behaviors. Now, even though you may lead with a particular behavior, you may have other secondary or third behavioral styles that come into play with that. So you can be up here naturally on one, but be right behind it with another behavioral style. And depending on the scenario, you'll wave back and forth between the two, which we'll talk about what that looks like a little bit more as we go. So we've got on the disc analysis, the D, the I, the S, and the C. The driver, the influencer, the stabilizer, and the controller. So we also have this lined up with a whole class structure that I learned about that lines up with the eagle, the peacock, the dove, and the owl. So your eagle is also your D, which is your driver, your peacock. So start thinking about what those birds are. Your eagle, strong, peacock, pretty and showy. So you've got your I, that is your influencer and a peacock. Your dove is stable. So doves are very calm and pretty. And you've got your owl. So think of the owl, the wise owl with the glasses, and the C is your controller. And we're going to talk about different jobs that these all 3 carry. Okay. Oh, that was odd. It went like this before it went straight. Okay. So look at this graph, and this will be available to you all, so you can go back and look at this. But this is how it pretty much lays out. Your dove and your peacock, which are your S and your I, are supportive roles. So they are wonderful to put into some, a team atmosphere, or into a admin, as long as the peacock doesn't lead. Your peacock and your eagle are your, hang on a minute. Sorry, this takes over my screen and I can't see where the people are. Okay, are direct. Your peacocks and your eagles can be very direct behavioral styles. They'll just say it to you like it is. They're just very poignant. Your owl and your eagle, which are your C and your D, are controlling. And then you have your dove and your owl, which are more indirect. And they're your stabilizer and your controller. They're a little bit more, they're not going to come straight out and say it to you. They don't like confrontation. They want to make the owl very much wants to make everybody happy. So those styles kind of veer to go kind of beat around the bush a little bit. Let's put it that way. So let's talk about each one of the natural behavioral styles of each of the four. So your dove, think about this with buyers, you guys. Dove makes decisions slowly. They're very people oriented and excellent listeners. They dislike any type of interpersonal conflict. They're irritated by pushy, aggressive behavior. So if you're a high D or an I and you're working with an S dove, selling to them, if you're pushy and aggressive on getting them to make an offer, they may just completely back off and run away because that's just not their comfort zone. They're very cooperative, steady workers, and they are excellent team players. They do not trust right off the bat. They have to get to know you and earn trust with you. But once they do trust you, they are the most loyal people that you will ever be involved with. These are the people that will send you referrals. These are people that will always back you up, be your friend. If you need somebody to talk to, like it says, they're great listeners. Their weakness, though, is that they can be unassertive. Sometimes they need to step up and speak for themselves. And overall sensitivity and easily bullied. So they can be, a little bit sensitive to things. And if they get frustrated, sometimes they're the behavioral style that they'll give up because they don't like the conflict. So they can be bullied, although they don't like that aggressive behavior. So that is your S dove. Okay, now we're going to talk about the owl. The owl, they have a high need to be right. They're perfectionists. They're very serious and orderly. They dislike too much involvement and work independently. They're irritated by disorganized and illogical people. So if they see something one way, they have a real hard reality of understanding why other people don't understand how they see it, or that they're right. They get really irritated with that. And that's where they come into illogical people. They have a quest for data, ask a lot of detailed questions. So when you're working with a buyer that is an owl, they're going to be a little bit more quiet, and they're going to analyze everything, and they're going to start wanting to know what the cubic dimensions of the refrigerator are. They'll pay more attention to the size of the air handler, the gallons in the pool, the efficiencies of how everything on the property runs. It's more about the investment and the money side of it, understanding what the people bought the property for, what the market is doing, what improvements they've done, where the market is going. These are your data people. They want information. They want data. Their weakness is Procrastination. They procrastinate like you wouldn't believe. If you want them to get something done, make a list for them and a timeline, just so you know. That's just a little tip on an owl. They're conservative and picky and overcautious. And they can really be a challenge sometimes because they are, have you heard of people that kind of work in a box? They work in a box and they stay within that box. And I know this behavioral style very, very well because I have been with my husband now, I think almost 24 years. He's a high C owl. And I've kind of learned how to handle him. And that's called a honey-do list with a deadline. So let's talk about your buyers and sellers a little bit more. And I want to go back. I want to go back to your dove. Your doves are your school teachers, your nurses, counselors, because they're excellent listeners. They are people that are nurturing, that nurture the world per se. That doesn't mean they don't have other types of careers, but that's what a lot of them tend to gravitate towards. They are very community oriented and get in that bubble of people that they work with and they love to be around. Your owl is your accountant, CPA. A lot of attorneys are owls. A lot of doctors are owls. Architects, jobs that require a lot of focus of detail and data is what they tend to lead towards. I've also found with real estate agents that are owls, S's and owls, the S's need to be really comfortable in their environment. And along with the owl, they feel the need to know every scenario that could possibly happen so they know how to react to it so they're not caught off guard. And we all know that in the real estate industry, even me over 30 years, I hear something new every day, or something that hasn't come up in 10 years all of a sudden comes up again. This is a living, breathing organism that constantly changes real estate. So you can't always predict. And owls and S's aren't really off the cuff kind of people. They like to plan and know the detail and know what direction it's going to go. Your S's, before they buy, need to make sure their family and friends are comfortable with their decision. So they may take a little bit longer. Your owl may want to analyze the data a little bit longer. And like I said, you see on here procrastination. They're the ones that sometimes may lose the opportunity on the home because they studied the data too long and somebody else went out there and put an offer in and it's gone. So you have to really educate them on the market and how quickly things are going so they get a reality check of it so they can process that along with their data. And you guys have any questions, you're welcome to stop me at any time. Your eagle accepts challenges. They take authority. I mean, just look at the picture. You can kind of see that eye of that eagle. They demand maximum freedom. They like to soar and do their own thing. They wanted it done right, and they wanted it done right now. Really, really high D's kind of sort of wanted it done yesterday. So they have to back off a little bit because they're so demanding and so direct. They use leadership skills to become winners. Their weaknesses, they're stubborn, they're impatient, they're inflexible, and they are really bad listeners. They have to really work on concentrating on listening to people and knowing what they're saying to them. So your types of jobs, you will see doctors and lawyers, CEOs, drill sergeants, head of newspapers, head of companies. These are the people that are driving things to happen, have it be in their business, be in their community, or in the world. They are just very strong, strong people. Sometimes they can be a little difficult to be around because they're so direct and they're so impatient. Then we have our peacocks. We love our peacocks. They're so pretty. They are direct, supporting, and animated. They're spontaneous. So you throw something at a real estate agent that's a high I peacock, they're like, okay, I'm going to run with it. I'll figure it out as I go. They're seldom concerned about the facts. They're really good at winging it. That cannot always be a good thing. They seek approval and recognition. They want to know they're doing a good job. They want to be recognized. And they really do have the ability to think really quick on their feet. They're irritated by boring tasks. So trying to get a peacock to be diligent about doing, managing their sphere of influence and continuing to make phone calls, because they want to be out showing houses. They want to be going to lunch. They want to be doing all the fun stuff. They have a challenge in bringing them back and focusing on the detail that is required in the job that we do. So think about your buyer. Buyers that are peacocks, they are all over the place. Is it gated? What are my friends going to think of the neighborhood? Oh, how big is the closet? Do I have room for all my shoes? They think a lot about that social aspect of everything. I'm going to tell you what, when the market crashed and we had so many people that were in homes that they couldn't afford, a lot of them were peacocks because they didn't care. They would max out whatever to make it look good so that they look flashy in the home that they were in. Their weakness, they get involved in too many things. They also can be impatient and a short attention span, and they can become very bored very easily. So you have to keep bringing them back onto what they're doing. If you're showing a home to them, they'll squirrel. I mean, the term squirrel was designed for the peacock because all of a sudden they're like squirrel and they're gone. So you got to keep bringing them back, and everything about the home is going to be, how does it look? How is it going to be perceived? But they also do want, now in the new reality that we're in, they do want to make sure that they can afford it and it's within their, and I know we don't use that word out there with our buyers and sellers, the word afford. It's about what their budget is, but they really do want to make sure that it is within their budget, because they like to do a lot of other things. They care about their clothes and the car that they're driving. It's all that perception that goes on. Your peacock jobs are entertainers, salespeople. You'll notice a lot of salespeople are peacocks because they can talk to people. They are not shy. Your any type of cruise director or just anything that involves talking with people and being social and guiding them, your tour guides, people that are engaging and theatrical are going to be your peacocks. But you will notice a very large amount of real estate people that are salespeople are peacocks, and they are all over the place. But remember, they have secondary and third behavioral styles that help balance them. I don't know that I very often have seen a peacock way up here with all of their other behavioral styles really low. They would really be all over the place. But they've got to have those other behavioral styles to help balance them so they can do the other part of the job that's important. But ultimately, they get bored very easily and do have a very short attention span. I kind of consider them the kindergartners because, they're all about the toys. So those are our 4 behavioral styles. So remember, your dove needs to be in a supportive environment. They need to trust you. They need to know that you're honest with them before they're going to make a buying decision. Your owl, analytical. They want to know that you've got the answers to the questions. You can't really wing it with an owl. You got to be a bit more, the know of what we're doing. Your eagle, they just want it. They want the answer. They want it quick. Give it to them. They'll pay attention a little bit to the detail, but most of it is just quick facts, high level. And then your peacock is how pretty it is and how it fits within their budget. And they'll make a lot of their decisions based upon emotion and how they feel. Okay, so now let's talk about the 4 different aspects of each of the styles. We've got 4 styles. We've got positives and we've got negatives of each of the styles. So the dove, they're positive, they're supportive, they're reliable, they're pleasant. They're just great people to be around. Negative is sometimes they're a little bit too complying and retiring and soft-hearted. So remember that word bully. They can kind of be pushed sometimes. Your peacock, invigorating, optimistic, animated. They usually have a very positive outlook on life. If a peacock is in a negative downturn, it's very bad because they're usually very positive people. Negative is, hang on one second. Excuse me. They're impatient. And, we've talked about the fact that they have a challenge staying focused. But one of their biggest negatives is if they don't know how to control it, they can be considered very manipulating. So what are salespeople? So many people think salespeople manipulate you into buying what it is that you're going to buy. A good salesperson who is a peacock doesn't come across as being manipulative. They come across as being a good salesperson. And that is really focusing on one of their other weaknesses, which is listening and understanding what that buyer is looking for is of that seller. So this is where they have to adapt to be able to work within their environment. And they can tend to be a little overexcitable. They'll get really excited about something before they know all the facts, because remember, peacocks don't like facts. But your buyers, you have to kind of keep them in check too if they're a really high peacock, because they're really they're super optimistic, and they think that they can put in that low bid and, oh yeah, they're going to sell it to me. So you have to really educate them and bring them down and keep them under control is probably the best term for it. Now we've got our owls. Positive, they're diligent. They are persevering, creative. They are very task oriented and very detailed. Their negative is they can be really picky, righteousness, and come across stiff. Sometimes when you meet an owl, the other person may think they don't like you. They'll think, oh gosh, they really don't like me, or, I'm not doing a good job for them, because of the way that their demeanor is, because they're a little bit more stiff and picky. But once you get to know them and you get them lightened up, I've worked with a lot of owls in real estate, and I kind of get on their soft side a little bit. I'll nudge them a little bit. I'm like, okay, come on, Tom, what do you think? To try to get them to loosen up a little bit. And once you get them there, I even get them laughing. They take a little bit longer. They don't always like huge groups of people. They like a smaller group. So they tend to kind of, like a turtle, they kind of go in their shell sometimes. And I'm referring a lot to my husband too, because he'll sit back in the corner and just watch everybody and be really quiet and let me be out there talking to everyone. But when you're working with a buyer or seller, you've really got to understand when they're an owl, because they want detail. Now we've got our D eagle. Positive. They're so, firm, comprehensive, productive. They've got a bit of detail too, but they're just like boom, boom, boom. The saying is, you want something done, give it to a D eagle. They'll get it done, and real quick. Sometimes they're really uncompromising. They can dig their heels in about something, and they'll stay there. It takes a bit of time to push them through. They can be overbearing, and sometimes they can they can be intimidating is probably the best word for it. They can be intimidating to people the way that they come across sometimes, and that isn't always, a really good thing. So they have to really learn how to control how they're behaving and what they're doing. um, so what I want to do is open up the mics for a minute, and I want you guys to um, tell me anything that you want about any of these behavioral styles. If you think that you're one, or you've been in a scenario with one.
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm working with a couple from Ohio. He's a computer scientist type guy, and she's a writer and a teacher. And they're really intent on getting a spring-fed waterfront lake home with a sandy bottom, which most of those are state parks or national parks in Florida, but we have a few in the Mount Dora area. And I could just tell they wanted information about water quality, all this stuff. So I sent them the link to the
Good.
University of South Florida Water Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
They love that.
Mm-hmm.
So it completely opened them up,
Awesome.
and they're pouring through that data like crazy. I know it's going to take some time. They're probably making charts and things like that, but we've seen a couple of houses, and they're going to come back to see a couple more when they come on the market. But
there's some other ones too, Dave, and we can talk about this offline. I've got some ideas like Inverness and some other areas that I'm aware of. So I'll tell you about that. I'm a scuba diver and a camper. So
okay.
I got some ideas for you. Okay, anybody else?
It's interesting. I see some very strong peacock tendencies in myself. I've done the DISC exam, the test, 2 different times, and I was just comparing the results. I did it about a year and a half apart, and it was slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it's interesting. I do think that this can change over time depending on a number of factors. I know for me it seems to have, but it's interesting, and I can definitely peg certain people in my life for what they are.
Catherine, you brought up a really good point.
Yeah.
Really good point. And I want to share this with everybody, and you're going to find this interesting. Your natural behavioral style does not change.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody says, I took it a year or two ago and it's so different now, you got 2 different things going on. It could have been the mindset that they were in at the time then, or the mindset that they're in now.
Yes.
It can be that maybe they tried to manipulate it, not realizing they were trying to manipulate it. I've had a couple of conversations with Renee, and she has given me somebody's scenario and told me about them. And then I say, okay, they're a blump. And I'll look at their disc and everything they've told me about them. And I look at their disc analysis, and I said, they're lying. Sometimes people are not honest. They try to make it look like there's something that they're not. And anybody who really studies this and really gets into this can look right at it and go, no, this is not accurate. They tried to manipulate it. They tried to put themselves into a different frame of mind when they were taking this. But ultimately, our natural behavioral styles never change. Catherine, are you willing to share with you what your top was in your secondary, and let's see if where it falls? Because
definitely.
I know what you are, but go ahead.
I was a peacock, definitely, an I in both cases. In one, I was an IS, and the other an IC.
Interesting, because you've got a lot of eagle in you. I mean, you are a passionate entrepreneur. So maybe we can talk about yours a little bit more on the side. I see you being detail oriented. S, I don't see you as much S. You are just a go-getter. So I would peg you into the ID category with out mid-range out. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. I was managing a Keller Williams office in Windermere, and one of my front desk person had gone to the bathroom. So I was covering the front desk, and somebody came in, a husband and wife, and I greeted them, and they said that they were here to see Jane, I'm just going to make a name up, Jane, for a listing appointment. And I said, okay, great. So I took him to the conference room. I asked them if they wanted anything to drink, talked to him for just a second. And I said, let me go get the coffee for you and let her know that you're here. So give me just a moment. Walked out. I walked back to Jane's desk and I said, your listing appointment is here. And just in case you didn't know, he is a high CL. I said, you need to have a lot of facts about the neighborhood. Focus on the facts, focus on the details. She is an S. She's going to kind of go along more with what he wants to do, but she needs to like you. So make sure you acknowledge her and, be friendly with her so she, gets to know you and knows that you're a good person. I said, but you're going to be focusing on detail. And she's like, how do you know all this? I said, trust me. And I said, you need to come to one of my disc class. So she went in. She was in there, I don't even know how long, I wasn't paying attention, maybe 45 minutes. And then they were going to go tour the house. They wanted to come to the office first to discuss everything before they brought her into their home. She came into my office and goes, oh my God, you were so right. How did you know all that? And I said, let me teach you. I did. I taught her to understand the different behavioral styles, and she nailed it. And she got this great listing because she understood that he needed facts and detail. Now, she was an I, doesn't like to focus on the facts and the details, but she was able to adapt to the person that she was working with so that she could accommodate their behavioral style and sell to them as they need to be sold because they want detail. And the wife needed somebody that they trusted, that cared about their home. Because the woman, the wife there, the home is very important to her in that environment where he's more the detail. So this can very, very much help you in selling real estate. And this part of it is going to be really good for you to go back to when you can start learning how to pick up on the different behavioral styles. So your occupations of your dove, social worker, owl, engineer, that's my husband. Your eagle is your top executives, and your peacock is your salesperson. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't mean that's the only type of job they'll be in. It's just that is a good representation of where they tend to gravitate. And I'll give you another example. I had a young man in his mid-20s come in to interview about being an agent with me when I was managing one of the brokerages. And I did a disc analysis on every single person that I interviewed. It was the first thing they did because I needed to understand, without going into great detail, who they were. And I went in and started talking to him and I said, the job that you're in right now, you absolutely hate. You feel like you are claustrophobic. You're in a closet and you're dying to get out and talk to people. And he looks at me and he goes, oh my God, I kind of freaked him out the way I did it. He's like, how do you know this? Oh my God, it really, really kind of freaked him out. And I said, what are you doing right now? And he said, I'm working for a bank. And he's got to do something detailed where he's got to, gather data and put stuff together. And I'm like, oh my God. I go, your C is down low, low, low. No wonder you're miserable. I said, you're a peacock. You need to be out talking to people. And he goes, how do you know this? I said, because I was able to look at your natural behavioral style, see that your C was very low, but your peacock, your I, was very high. But on your adaptive, you've been pushing your peacock down and your C is way up. So you're having to use that detail aspect in that job, and that's not who you really are. So remember, we can be this, but we also can find ourselves in careers or jobs or environments where we have to adapt to be something that we're not. And that is, I think that my opinion is, I think that every child that is a senior in high school should have a disc analysis done on them and understand the behavioral styles before they go to college, because I talk to people so often. I went to college for this. I thought it interests me, and oh my God, I hated it. I was so bored, or it was too detailed, or it was this, or it was that, and they end up in different careers. And I really, truly believe that this would help give them some type of idea to help them on the path that they need to go on.
We did Myers-Briggs in high school. I remember doing that. In fact, I still remember what my
Good.
thing
they're-
was. And
they're
it's
not doing
so
that.
true.
Yeah, but they're not talking about the type of careers that each of the behavioral styles gravitates to enough.
Okay. They
they
did for
look at
us.
that? Okay, that's good. I just
They
don't
did
see
for
that.
us. I still have it. Yeah.
Well,
One of
yay.
those things that stands
Homeschool.
out from high school. Yep.
Some teacher out there got the memo. So vehicles, your Dove, because they like to be around people and that family oriented, they like station wagons. So nowadays, maybe a minivan. Your Owls like Volvos. So your Hondas, your hybrids, your more economical cars. Your Eagles prefer a Sherman tank because they want everybody off the road because they're in a hurry and they're very direct and they'll run you over. Your Peacock, Porsche. And I've seen a lot of Peacocks that are not in Porsches, but you know, they like something that's a little bit more luxury, a little bit more showy than your conservative vehicle. Irritations. Doves cannot stand people that are insensitive. Owls do not like unpredictability. Eagles do not like indecision. They're like, just make a decision and move on. And peacocks cannot stand routine. Trying to keep them on task and a routine is a challenge. So call blocking for all you peacocks out there, you hate it. So, yep, Catherine, because it's just not how peacocks roll. So these are the summary of the style descriptors. Now, this probably is one of the most important things that I'm going to show you today. And screenshot this, take a photo of this. This is what you really need to pay attention to in real estate. How do they react under stress? How are their decisions? And what are their fears? When you know this, you guys, it literally, I swear, can change your business because you know ahead of time how they're going to be. So a Dove, under stress, they become very indecisive. They just don't know what to do. They don't like that pressure. The Owl can become very withdrawn because they just don't want to face it. They don't want to deal with it. Eagle, they become very dictatorial, which is very bossy. A Peacock can get really sarcastic, and snotty is probably another word that you can use for it. Their decisions of a Dove are consultative. Remember, they need to know how everybody in their family feels. What are they going to think? Are they going to like it? You know, is this a good place for everybody to come? An Owl is deliberate. When they know the facts, they've made their decision, boom. Because it's based off of facts. Eagle is decisive because they're gathering a lot of different things that are making them to make the decision. And the Peacock is totally spontaneous. I mean, oh, they will just, oh, hang on, guys. My computer is ringing. Okay. Sorry. Somebody was calling me from my database. It's all ringing. Oh my gosh, it doesn't want to stop. Sorry.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
The fact that it's only rang once is kind of shocking with as many voice notes this morning. Okay, so now let's talk about fears. So let's talk about bad home inspections, appraisal problems, lenders being wonky. Doves have a really hard time with sudden changes. So if you're dealing with a Dove and there's an issue that has come up, you guys try to solve it before you even inform them about it, because it can really freak them out. And owl, criticism. They will just start ripping everybody apart big time. And eagle's biggest fear is being taken advantage of. And you can kind of take that into just about anything. And a peacock is loss of prestige. I've got a buyer right now that was adamant that they were going to spend about $1 million on a house. And I had him talk to the lender, and I wish I had him on the call. And he's like, she's adamant that she's going to be buying $1 million house. He goes, but the reality is it isn't happening. And she is a high peacock, and the loss of prestige of not being in that $1 million house, she is having a really hard time dealing with that. So always get your buyers pre-qualified before you go out and show them a lot of houses. One is fine, but always get them pre-qualified. So when you're dealing with the fears of somebody, and remember, when you're in real estate, try to get the problem solved so you're telling them the issue and the resolution all in one package, because they have fears just as we have fears, and they're going to react possibly different than your natural behavioral style and how you may react. But the dove, again, sudden changes. Owl, criticism. Eagles just don't like to be taken advantage of. If they think somebody is taking them for a ride, they are out of there. Eagles hate buying cars. They feel like they're being taken advantage of. And houses are stressful for them as well. And peacocks, it's just all about how it all looks. But remember, it's not just about that. That is just what their leading behavioral style descriptor is. Now, did you know that you can talk to somebody on the phone, watch their body language and their vocal variety, and you can determine what behavioral style they are just by talking to them? So a dove is going to ask more than they tell. Remember, they're really good listeners. Their vocal tone is less forceful. They have a lower volume. It's a little bit more steady. And they have even though we can't really use handshakes right now, they're a gentle handshake. And they exhibit patience. They're calm. Where, think about the peacocks, man, they're all over the place. So they're very calm. The eagle is just going to tell you more than they ask. I want this, and lots of verbal communication. So you can sometimes misconstrue that with a peacock. They're more vocal. They have a higher volume and a faster pace. So they're going to talk fast. They're going to be a high volume. It's going to be boom, boom. They have a firm handshake, and they're just right out. They're going to display impatience. They get very impatient. Your peacock is more of an informal speech. Sometimes they can digress from the conversation. So remember your peacocks, you got to keep bringing them back in, because they can just go down the road and tell you way more story than you need to know. Vocal, they're a little bit more dramatic and high volume. And the visual in the body, hands, body movement, they're moving. Your owl is more formal and proper, and it's a more focused conversation because they have a purpose of what they're focusing on. There is less variety in vocal quality. They're steady and slow speech. So you're not going to see as much vocal variety with an owl. And they have fewer facial expressions. Sometimes it takes a lot to even get them to smile. I mean, they're just very steady. And they don't like hugging. They prefer, that handshake, and that's it. They're not super touchy-feely kind of people. That's just not what they prefer. So does anybody want to guess what I am? Not you, Catherine, because you probably already know.
I'll stay quiet.
Oh, thank you, Renee, because you so know who I am. Oh, come on, you guys. Give me some guesses.
Marcel just put into the chat, hi, I.
Hi, okay. Anybody else? Can you read them to me, Renee? Because I can't see them.
That's
Anybody
the only
else?
one I see. If you prefer to not open your mic, everyone that's
it in
joining
there.
us, drop it in chat. What do you think Gretchen Carlson's disc profile is?
I think definitely influencer and eagle.
Okay. Which one do you think leads?
Peacock influencer.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to chime in?
I think you're a peacock.
Okay. All right. Okay. So
Wait, can I say one thing? Hold on. Because I don't know you're trailing. So can I guess? Well, no, because then I'm going to give it away. But anyway, I don't know you're trailing and I'm guessing at your trailing.
all right, you ready? I literally test out on any time I've taken this. I am an almost off the chart high D. I fall into, excuse me, psycho bitch from hell category. And it's the honest to God truth. I am high D. When I'm in, Renee, you've only seen it. You've not seen me. You've not seen me. I control myself. And then I'm right behind it right here with an I. So I can be super direct with a big old smile on my face and a bunch of enthusiasm. I have learned, and I will tell you guys that when I was growing up, I always thought something was wrong with me because I don't know. I was so direct and just had a mission and wanted to do things, but nobody else was like me. And I honestly thought something was wrong with me. And I just really wasn't always a nice person until I learned the disc analysis, that I learned who my behavioral style is and how to adapt it. What Renee has to remember is that I am in 100% adapt mode almost all the time. My high D does not come out very often anymore. I have learned how to push it when it comes to my environment and working. Where I let it out is my drive to be successful, my drive to be on the top of the leaderboard, my drive to have the most deals. I mean, I become a workaholic. D's can very much become workaholics, and so can C's sometimes, because they get so buried in the detail that they'll work and work and work. Your high C's, you guys, can also be misconstrued as a high D. Keep that in mind. So you've got to, sometimes you might make a mistake on analyzing what somebody is, but your D and your C, believe it or not, carry a very fine line between them, where your D won't necessarily drive as much into the detail. I have met many people that are ISs, and this is how I describe their life. The I is over here going, oh, come on, just go do it. Just go do it. And the S is over here going, no, I think I need to understand what to do and how to prepare and what to say before I go out and do it. They literally have a struggle in their head every day. And I've said that to some of them and they're like, oh my God, how do you know this? I find it entertaining. But I've also noticed that the high C's and the S's take a longer time to be successful in real estate. And let me tell you why. Because they tend to analyze the data a little bit too much. And they'll get caught up in the weeds sometimes with buyers and sellers. And I love what Dave said. He gave them the link and went like this. Give them the link, let them go do it. Don't do it for them. A lot of C's will tend to get caught up and start doing it for them versus giving it to them and letting them do the work and letting them figure it out. And your S's, they don't know how to wing it. And, to just go ahead and just pick up the phone and start, having zero, call anxiety. S's have a lot of anxiety when it comes to that because they don't wing it. They don't know who the person is. But when you get an S in an environment of a buyer and them getting to know them, the buyers are going to love them because they're great listeners. They're consistent. They're nurturing. It just, the process takes them a little bit longer. I know a top agent out of Windermere who is a high S. And it took her, because we've discussed it many times in the past, it took her 5 years. She came out of being a social worker, but 5 years to really build her business. But her following and her sphere of influence is like this, because relationships are so important to her. She gets massive amounts of referrals, but it took her longer to get her business going. Wherein I can get it going quick, but where an I lacks challenge is that an I isn't consistent. So they run into challenges when it comes to staying in relationship with their sphere of influence, because they don't take the time and they get bored with the routine of making the calls, checking on them, doing the handwritten cards, things of that nature. So in your C's sometimes just analyze everything way too much. So you have to understand your own behavioral style. And when you're in this role as a realtor, you have to adapt yourself to make sure that you're doing what you need to grow your business to meet your goals, but also understand how to offer the best service possible. And that is by adapting to your buyer or seller's behavioral style so that you can service them the way they want to be serviced and communicate with them the way they want to be serviced. Because do you
Gretchen?
think, yes.
Marcel just asked where they can take the DISC test. I put it in chat. There's many different online sources. The one that is most frequently used is the tonyrobbins.com/DISC. The link is in chat.
Yep. Thank you, Renee. I have found that with the Tony Robbins that they give you a disc, but then to get the graph, you have to pay for it. You really honestly need the graph. And if I don't know how much it is, if it's 10, 20 bucks, trust me, it's worth it. It'll be the best money you've ever spent. And if you ever want to talk DISC, talk about your behavioral style, anything, you are welcome to call me, because Renee knows I'll talk this all day long.
Well, I want to remind everyone too, because this is being recorded, wherever you're watching the replay, drop a question into the chat box below in your comments, and we'll continue to keep an eye on that because this is good continued conversation. So wherever you're watching this, YouTube, Workplace, Facebook, put your questions in comments and we will continue to keep it going.
Awesome. But ultimately, we're here to take care of our buyers and sellers and give them great service and honesty and ethical and all of those things. But the process is a lot easier when you understand who they are. And I also can tell you, it very much will help you in your own personal relationships. I'm not been with my husband for over 20 years with a high C and a high D by accident. I have to know how to manage him. And I have to know how to adapt my behavioral style based upon his C mood that he can be in. So you have to understand who people are. And, I can honestly say I was married before I met my husband to a high DI. And we basically argued over who was going to talk first and who was going to be in charge. And he lost because I'm the one that's always in charge. So he went bye-bye. So that is the DISC analysis. I hope this has been beneficial to you guys. You've enjoyed it. You've learned something from it. It's my favorite thing to talk about. Open mic. Questions, concerns, curiosities.
Marcel asked, can you recommend a particular book to read regarding this topic?
No, but I've got a packet that I've put together that goes into a lot more detail about things. There probably is a book out there. Maybe someday I'll hire somebody to write one for me.
Sounds like opportunity, Gretchen.
Yeah, it's just my favorite topic.
I'll write it for you, Gretchen.
Because I am not a writer. Oh my gosh.
I am.
That's her strength. She is a writer. Anybody else?
I have a question. So if I did take the Tony Robbins test, and I was surprised I was a C and an S. So it takes me time, like you say, to make the phone calls and get that confidence. And I feel I have to know everything. So how do I break out of that? Just try to do it?
What I would do is do it with some good goal setting, that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to make this many phone calls a day. And you have to maybe have an accountability partner to help you to stay focused on that, because you do have to push through a little bit. But once you do, your loyalty and your relationships are so strong. So I would, for you, I would, as a real estate coach, I would focus on your sphere of influence and calling your sphere of influence for referrals. Should you be doing it every quarter and doing handwritten cards and telling them that you need their help. So because you were so strong with those relationships, that's going to be your biggest source. I call it kind of the pot of gold with anybody's business, but especially an S, because you have got great tight relationships and those people are loyal to you and they want to help you and they're going to send you referrals. But it's like this. Everybody doesn't realize, and this is a whole nother topic class that I do, and that is working with your sphere of influence. They're like puppies. You have to treat your sphere of influence like puppies. You love them and they're cute, but they forget who you are when it comes to business. You've got to keep taking them outside and reminding them to go potty. It's the same thing. You've got to keep reminding them to send you referrals and to think of you when they think of real estate. And that's where the 33 touch program comes in. And that is consistently touching your database and your sphere of influence so they remember who you are. And I'll tell you really quick, I had somebody I sold a house to who ended up getting her real estate license and working with me for a while. She had a small group of friends here when she moved here from Northern Virginia. And she said to one of the girls in that group, hey, I have a realtor that was referred to me. I don't really know her that well yet. This was me. Do you know anybody, any realtors? And she goes, no, I don't. She ended up working with me. And then as we were working together, the girl that she asked that question to put a tennis group together at Bella Colina. And would you know, one of the people in that group that she was really good friends with was a realtor, and she didn't even think to refer my friend buyer to her. It just didn't come top of mind. And it's because that particular girl, once I knew who it was and knew more about it, she doesn't work her sphere of influence. She doesn't take her business serious like we all do and remind her what she does on a regular basis. And that can be the difference between a referral and a not referral.
Gretchen, you rock. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your awesomeness.
You guys, I have another class I really, really like. I love all my classes, but in March, I am doing a pre-listing packet and listing consultation to win the listing. And I don't know how many listing appointments I've been on. I mean, I just started selling full-time a little over a year and a half ago. I have never gone on a listing yet that I haven't gotten. I need to go on more because it's something, I have a forte for listings, doesn't mean
What's the date?
It is March the 11th at 11 a.m. Because you guys, you got to know when to take them and when to leave them, when to walk. And I have walked.
Business investment decision for multiple parties.
Yep.
So agree.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to be at that class.
I know you got to meet with me before it to go over some of the strategies too, because you guys, things are changing. Things are evolving in our business. And just because I taught it one way 8-10 years ago doesn't mean it's going to be how I'm going to teach it now, except for the disc, because the disc is the disc.
Thank you, Gretchen. You rock.
Every time you do a class, I'm like, that was better than the last one. This is great.
Thank you.
This is great. Every single time it's super practical and useful and golden nuggets galore. So
well, I owe everything to Renee, because if it wasn't for Renee, I would not be on here. She's encouraged me to get on camera to do this. She's helped me structure it all. So Renee, thank you. And guys, all thank Renee because she's our leader. Love you.
I adore you, but I have to say we owe it all to Jen because she's the real brains behind holding all this together.
Jen, make it pretty. That's not me
All right,
either.
guys, make it a
Bye,
great
y'all.
day.
See you later.